So it's all to play for still.
I think so. Do you want to bet against us?
Hi, villains, and welcome to For the Love of Paul McGrath podcast. And we have a new name in the mix. We have a new name in the mix with regards to the ongoing and ever-growing saga of Douglas Luiz's departure from Aston Villa to Juventus. We know that Samuel Ealing Jr. is nailed on to come. We know that there's going to be money coming. We thought it was going to be Weston McKennie. And it now looks like it's going to be Enzo Barrenchea, if I've pronounced that correctly. Barrenchea, should I say, is going to be joining Aston Villa as well with it. That's where the rumours are going at the moment. It looks like that it is a new name in the mix. A name I'm sure not a lot of people will have heard of. I'm going to be really honest. He's only got one full year in senior football, and that was with Frosinone, playing with Matthias Sule, who Aston Villa asked for and were told, hands off, go away, not involved in this transfer, which makes me very, very upset. That's the rumor that was coming from, I think it was Alfredo Pudilla, somewhere along the line. But Enzo Barrenchea is somebody who seems to be the flavour of Unai Emery's tea at the moment. And I took a look at him. I'm going to be honest. I'd only really watched him fleetingly. When I was watching Matthias Sule, obviously you see this guy, he stands out. There was a ton of Juventus players on loan at Frosinone. Kyle George was on loan with them as well last season. And, you know, some of these guys stand out. Frosinone had a really young team. As I said, a lot of them were on loan from Juventus. And their team that eventually got relegated in the last day of the season. I think. Yes, it's 11:30 p.m. here. So if I was wrong on that, if they did stay up in the last day of the season, I do correct myself, but I think I'm correct on it. If they did get relegated. But so getting back to this guy here, and what I've seen from him is he's going to be a player that, if you're thinking he's going to be a Douglas Luiz regen, he's going to be a Douglas Luiz replacement, he's not. And I think I've been saying this for a while, that Aston Villa have been looking to they've been looking to replace midfield attributes with I think they've been looking for more steel in midfield. And I think there is still a playmaker to come through the doors at some stage. Who that is, I don't know. But I think this guy, if he was to sign for Aston Villa, will be he will surprise people. I think from a lot of points of view. I think he will surprise people. Defensively, he's absolutely rock solid. Some of you guys might remember I have somebody who I've got a lot of time for, and it's Guido Rodriguez for Argentina, and this guy reminds me in some ways of Guido Rodriguez, and I'll tell you why. He's not the kind of barroom brawler that Guido Rodriguez is, but this guy is the same kind of career arc as him. Was highly thought of, hasn't played really underage for Argentina, and he's 23, and I think he's ready to break out, or he's ready to kind of shit or get off the pot, if you'll excuse the phrase, at the moment. Just like Guido Rodriguez was in 2017 when he made his Argentina debut at the age of 23 as well, ironically. So he hadn't made any inroads in the Argentinian national team or been selected for any underage Argentinian teams, same as this guy as well here. But they've got a similar skill set from the point of view. They're very good in defense. They can turn, they can get passes going. They're metronomic. And this guy, I've really found that not so much a Frosinone because he wasn't really tasked with doing this for them. But when I went back and I watched his under-23 games, when I watched his time at Juventus Next Gen, when I watched him in some friendly games for Juventus today, you can see that this guy is a bit more in his locker, and he's got a bit more that we can unlock from a potential point of view. Put something up on Twitter there. May not look like an awful lot, but it was a few passes that he made, and he was dropping those passes into a bucket with his right foot. On the slides I've got coming up here, I've neglected to change it. It says he is left-footed. He is a right-footed player, which is odd in itself, considering we've only been linked with left-footers, and I thought that we could only sign left-footers for a period of time. But he's he's a bit more cultured with his right foot than I gave him, or than I suppose his time at Frosinone gave him credit for. Now that's not to say that he didn't do an awful lot in the passing game. He absolutely did. When I say he was metronomic, he was tasked with an awful lot of passes with Frosinone, and he was tasked with an awful lot of link up play, of pivot play. Did not carry the ball forward. Was not a progressive carrier of the ball, and I'm fine with that because you want but he's a real player that Unai Emery could utilize. You get it into midfield quickly, he gets it out of midfield quickly. He's in-out type of player, plays those triangles, can get turned on the ball at the same time and play a raking ball. He's bigger than he looks. He togs out bigger than he looks. He's 6'1", but when you look at him in the field, he's a bit gangly, but he looks taller than 6'1", if that makes sense. So a bit of height in midfield is always good. He's not exactly a slow player. He's got a big, massive, long stride on him, and he can really, really cover ground. And with that, I'm going to just bring in oh no, what's going on here? I'm going to bring in a few slides on him here. We're going to have a little chat on Enzo Barrenchea here also. Just a few notes, as I said, that I had written down on him. I'm just going to consult those if you guys don't mind. Talk amongst yourselves for a moment. So, from a physical point of view, he's 6'1", as I said, but he's a long, languid type player. He's not slow. He is a quick player. He's quick over distance, but he looks like he's a real long stride. So when you see him moving, he looks like he's not going very fast, but he's catching players. Believe me, he absolutely is. And that stride is very noticeable when you see him run as well. He's extremely competitive. One of the biggest things I would say about this guy is if you're looking for somebody to be in the right position at the right time in a defensive point of view, this guy seems to have it naturally. And I'm not bigging him up from a hyperbolic point of view. And a lot of people might, we're going to have two sides of the coin here. People are going to say, I expect that from my defensive midfielder and it's non-negotiable. And that's fine. But you're also going to have people who are going to turn around and say, wow, this guy's the new N'Golo Kante. And I'm not saying either of those are correct or incorrect. But what I do like to see from him here is his natural ability to be able to hold that middle of the midfield, not get flustered, not be too busy looking for the ball, but being able to stay on and staying turned on upstairs and being in the right position to pick up the ball. To me is a great strength to have. I watched one game of his. I think it was against Lazio. I watched his actions, should I say, from a game. I think it was Lazio, and he was really good in that game. And he just held the middle of the field, and he made it very difficult to play for teams to play through you or to be passive. And he was able to drop back and protect the middle of the D in front of the goals as well. Something I think that Aston Villa have neglected to do, specifically with Boubacar Kamara being out of the team. Whether he's a replacement for Boubacar Kamara or somebody who comes off the bench for Boubacar Kamara, I think remains to be seen, because to pigeonhole him as just a defensive midfielder, I think is premature. And we'll take a look at some of his passing statistics in a moment. So let's actually just move on to the next slide here. So this is what he looks like. These are his statistics. He's not going to be somebody who's going to get to the edge of the area and ping a couple of shots in from distance. He's not going to have that in his locker like Douglas Luiz did. He's not going to be running out taking corners. Looking at his heat map there, he's going to absolutely be like a tripwire in the middle of the midfield. You come anywhere within that attacking third and that defensive third, he's going to try and find you. He's going to be seek and destroy. Bundles of energy. Himself and McGinn and Boubacar Kamara in the middle of midfield, in a midfield tree, would be a nuisance, and they would be able to tackle, hassle people and get in around people very, very well. I think his ability, as I said, to be able to come back onto the edge of the area is quite good too. He's not a defender. He's not a centre half. He's not that hybrid player like Boubacar Kamara. We think could be, he could drop into a back three. This guy could go back and pick the ball up in a back three, all right, for sure. But he's not going to be that person who can slap back in there when we're in attack. For me, he wants to patrol and maraud within that middle of midfield, and I think he's got more to offer than just somebody who settles back into a back three and becomes almost a false centre half. And the reason I think that is when we look at his passing statistics there. By the way, I mentioned as well, he's not left-footed, he's right-footed. I neglected to change that in the slide. So his touches there, we can see had quite a lot of touches over the course of the last 365 days. He's 23. This was his first time. He's just gone 23. But he was 22 when he was playing with Frosinone. His first time getting a real big go at a senior club, and they trusted him to have 70.85 touches per game. They also trusted him to attempt 60.93 passes per game. You know, that's not typical of your defensive midfielder. And yes, while you can turn around and you can look at where were those passes, you know, were they all in the middle of the field? Were they all at short distance? Just to give you a breakdown here with regards to those, he had he attempted 27.44%, 27.44 of his passes per 90 minutes in the short range. In the medium range, he attempted 24.81, and he attempted 6.18 then in the long range passes. Overall achieving a pass completion statistic of 85.3%, which is for me is really good. It actually comes in at bang on what Douglas Luiz was for us last season as well. So from a pass completion point of view, if you want to say he's a Douglas Luiz metronome replacement, as in keeping the ball moving in midfield, but he has that extra ability to defend, because this guy's a defend first type of player, and I really like that about him. And that's why I'm getting vibes of Guido Rodriguez off him as well. That I think is something that Unai Emery may want with from this guy. I may want from our midfield as well going forward. So it's going to be really interesting. Another big statistic I wanted to show as well is that the ability for him not to get dispossessed, and the ability for him to receive passes in the middle of that midfield. So he received 44.34 passes per 90 minutes. Yes, it only comes in the 64th percentile within Europe. That's still in the top third of midfielders within Europe's top 5 leagues. But remember, this is his first foray into first real foray into senior football at a struggling team that was in and around the relegation zone, and they trusted him with receiving that many passes throughout the course of the game. I think that's really, really important to keep in mind. And you know, if you need to load him up with touches, you need to load him up with passes per game. You know, he's not adverse to doing that. He's had that within a good defensive league like Serie A. Looking at his defensive statistics there, I think they're the ones that really jump off the page. For me, you know, his blocks, his interceptions, his tackles, while they're not massive numbers, they're what we need within this midfield, I think, as well as a small bit of playmaking, which I think will come from other players this season. The big one, as you can see there on the radial graph, is his recoveries. His ball recoveries per 90 minutes come in at 7.40, far eclipses anything that we have in midfield, including Boubacar Kamara. So he will immediately come in and be a massive ball winner within the structure of our team at the moment. So, you know, he's not, if you're looking for him to be a Douglas Luiz replacement, once again, I have to stress this, if you're looking for him to be a Douglas Luiz replacement, you will be disappointed. If you're looking for him to be, if you're trying to put a value on him now, if you're looking at transfer market and you're saying, he's only 7.5 million on transfer market, you know, what's this true value for Douglas Luiz? Let that all come out in the wash. I'm not here to discuss that at the moment. If you feel that he's been overvalued by Juventus, and maybe we've had our pants taken down with regards to this, you can absolutely feel that way at this moment in time. I don't know how this player is going to pan out. When I've watched him, what I see is that there's a skill set here that he has that can really be built upon, and I think can be built upon quickly, because he's a young player. He looks like a guy who's absolutely gagging for first team action, or for senior football, should I say? If he comes to Villa, there will be opportunities for him. Like, even if you bring him in here and you say, right, if he's not the Douglas Luiz replacement, if he's the Timur Bunum replacement, if he's the Leander Dendoncker replacement, but we get way more minutes out of him over the course of the season than we did from them last year, I think that's a massive net positive here. But I don't want to sell him as this guy, as this bit part player that's going to come in and has, you know, will be what he will be. I think this guy is very much a potential player, because the potential is there. You can see it. He can launch long-ranking balls. He can pass in the intermediate areas of the field as well. But his big thing is he stays on his feet. He gets those tackles in, and he really protects the edge of the D of our defense. And if we are playing a high line, or maybe at times if we're under the caution, we need to pack in that middle of midfield. This guy is really, really good at it. And we saw how we struggled with that at times last year. Not digging out Douglas Luiz, but just because, as I say, he's not going to be a direct replacement for him. But when you look at what at times last year, Douglas Luiz was maybe caught in defence, pulling players back, or maybe needless tackles because he wasn't as comfortable in that defensive position when Boubacar Kamara was gone out of the team. This guy comes in, maybe he plays beside Boubacar Kamara, maybe he plays in the midfield three. I think that he could be a valuable asset from that point of view, but you do lose out on the forward-thinking aspect of the game. You're going to lose out on the shots. He hasn't had a lot of those over the last year. Even in his time in the 23s, he was tasked with more or less, being that defensive midfielder, but he was able to pick a pass as well. So lots of positives, I think. Lots of potential, should I say? Sorry, from this guy. Values of it and everything like that. We're going to see how it comes out in the wash. I do think that forever, no matter who we sign in this deal, in this player trade, I think no matter who comes our way, they will be forever linked with Douglas Luiz, and there will be pressure on them from that point of view. And whether this guy can reach the heights of Douglas Luiz, I don't know. Humans are not good at predicting things, and I certainly am not good at predicting things. So I'm going to leave that to people who are a lot more knowledgeable than I am. But if Unai Emery is looking for a very specific skill set, i.e. defensive actions, and also somebody who can keep that ball moving and is comfortable with a high workload of passes in the middle of midfield, but I think that this is a very, very smart signing for him to come up with that. And this guy also has a ton of potential. You can see it in him. He's well thought of at Juventus, well thought of in the scouting fraternity on Twitter or whatever that means. So let's see how this one pans out. And if Enzo Barrenchea becomes an Aston Villa player, I will be excited to see what his career arc will be. Albeit I will be disappointed to see Douglas Luiz leave. So that's going to do it for this tonight. Apologies, it wasn't a more in-depth piece. I'm going to try and get Nima from the Italian football podcast on again on Monday to discuss this more. We'll see how the weekend pans out. I'm at a wedding tomorrow. If anything breaks tomorrow, I might try and come on. I might be a bit inebriated, but sure, hey, that's all part of life as well. And as I say, I'm sure it's going to be very, very busy like today has been as well. It seems to be Aston Villa is transfer central. We are front page news from the point of view of club football at the moment with regards to all our transfers, and we're the team that everybody is talking about, and call that maybe arriving. But Aston Villa are look like they mean business this season and this off season, whether it's in the outgoings or whether it's in the incomings, and we will see what Unai Emery and Manchi are cooking up as the rest of the transfer window goes on. So thanks a million for your time, everybody. Really appreciate it. Please like this if you do like the transfer stuff and the scouting stuff that we do. And I'll try and get back if anything breaks over the next couple of days. But stay safe, stay healthy, and all that's left to say is up the Villa.